Hey folks, walk with me. Well, a few weeks ago, I took a class on something that I've been looking into for quite some time, and it felt, some of those things that felt like it was daunting for some reason, although you knew it was probably relatively simple or generally simple, and that's seed saving. So, I've been growing my own food now for a couple of years, and I was interested in learning how to save seeds. Mostly because, seeds are pretty cheap, but I was mostly interested in it because I like to have the knowledge and to have the skill, whether I decide to integrate it or not. I still like to have it, to be able to know that I could do it, and I have some concept of how to do it if I need to. And I'm by no means an expert. This video is more to say, here's a smidge of what I learned, and to sort of, give people a little light, gentle shove in the direction of like, go learn more about this if you're interested. Like, if you're interested enough to watch this video, I would definitely do it. So, if you're out there just sort of looking around, so one of the first things that I learned was this idea of what the plant or the seed is super important. So I always thought like hybrid was like a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I always thought for some reason that was like one of the best things to be. Turns out hybrid seeds or hybrid plants that produce then their seeds aren't necessarily stable in the sense of you can be sure or you can be confident that on balance the plant that you will get from that seed will uniquely resemble the plant that it came from, right? Which is what you would expect. But apparently the method by which hybrid plants are produced, that they are considered to be unstable in the sense of you could get something drastically different if you take those seeds and plant it the following year or sometime in the following years. And maybe in and of itself, if you're not worried about something growing that you don't want or you don't need or something that doesn't grow at all, if you're not interested or if you're not worried about that, maybe it is interesting to take some hybrid seeds and see what happens. So that was one thing. And then GMO, which seems pretty obvious, I think, will either not grow or, again, you're not sure what you're going to get. But then there's heirloom, which this I knew was like a like a natural, again, sort of like higher up on the hierarchy of plants and seeds, but I didn't really know why. But apparently it means that it's 50 or more years old. Like that's what I was say a tomato. That heirloom tomato is coming from seeds from another tomato, parent tomato, if you will. And that's, as you trace that back, that seed to tomato can be traced back for 50 years or more. So these are bueno. These are good to go. These are true to form. I think the term is different, but you can reliably assume that on balance, again, not accounting for floods or droughts or, infestations or whatever, but all else set aside, that you will get some sort of duplicate, if you will, of what it was that produced the seed, which is what you want, right? You want the consistency, you want the reliability, you don't want that variable necessarily to be in there. And then the fourth thing was open pollinated. So this, again, apparently is what you do want. So open pollinated plants produce seeds that are true to form. Apologies if I'm using a term there, or missing the term there. I'm gonna call it true to form. Again, meaning it should produce what you would expect it to produce based on what you took it from, what you got the seed from. And so, let me get this right. I think I'm gonna get this right. All heirlooms are open pollinated. All open pollinated are not necessarily heirlooms. Again, because of that requirement of the 50 plus years. So if you're going to the store or the farmer's market or whatever, and you're buying something with the intention of you're going to use that thing, but you're also going to try to save the seeds from it, then you might want to try to figure out, or even if you have the Latin name of what it is, you could Google it and find out if it's hybrid, open pollinated, heirloom, or of course GMO. But that's sort of like bare essentials, right? Just knowing that, okay, I'm planting this and it's hybrid, so there's a good chance I'm not going to get the thing that I think I'm going to get, and I'm okay with that. Or I'm planting this and it's open air pollinated, and I should get what I think I'm going to get because of that. Looks like I'm blocked here by a little by a down tree. There's several down trees there, so I'm gonna head back up. So that was the one thing, and then it was interesting that so they suggested which I wouldn't have expected this, but it does sort of make sense. The things that come with slimy seeds. So you think of tomatoes, cucumbers, right? You can scrape the seeds out, you can grab the seeds out, but they always have this slime around them, which I'm sure has some sort of wonderful scientific name that I just don't know. It's not the point of this video. But what they suggested, and what I did, and it seemed to work well, was you take that clump, like the whole clump of the seed with the slime and all that jazz, you put it in a cup with some water, like enough water where it has some room to float below it and whatnot, sink below it. And you let it sit there for 2 to 3 days. So I did 3 days. You cover the top with something breathable. So I took a cheesecloth, covered the top, so no bugs or anything else could get in there, but there was still some airflow. And 2 to 3 days later, take your covering off, get a strainer, dump it out, and it's much easier then. There still can be like a little slime. Oh, and it'll sort of like get a little film at the top, but that's okay. But it gets like a little slime. I think I missed my turn here. It gets the slime mostly off. You might still have to sort of like work with it a little bit, but that gets it off, and then you let it dry for another few days, and then stick it in the pack, like in an envelope or a packet to store. They suggested that you can then put one of those, like they called silica pouches, those things that come in like pills sometimes, that are meant to like absorb moisture. Stick one of those in there, especially on the ones like a cucumber or tomato, like any of those slimy ones that you had in water for a period of time. Put that in there to make sure that they don't mold. So I guess if they sit in the pack with a little bit of moisture, they can very easily mold. So those were cool. And then some others like flowers and stuff, it was quite a bit easier, right? It was just sort of drying them and then being able to easily sort of separate out the seeds. But you have to, this is my path. You have to kind of know what the seed looks like, right? So I had like a zinnia flower, like I'm not gonna be able to remember any of the others, but we did a bunch. And certainly if you just look it up, right? Like extracting zinnia flower seeds, right? It'll show you how. And it was actually kind of tricky. Like, it wouldn't have been obvious to me on some of these because they can be so small. They almost look like a thick speck of dust. And it's, so it's like if you don't know what you're looking for, it can be very easy to miss. But yeah, it was really cool. And I would definitely recommend, you know, they were saying that a lot of these seed companies, including the one where I had gotten my seeds from, have IP, like intellectual property, like they've patented the seeds. And so this then creates a whole other issue where technically you're not supposed to reuse those seeds. They're not your intellectual property. And that's, I don't know, it's a little bit of a scary world, it feels like. And I mean, you know, but also they were saying it's unlikely that they would target like a home grower or something, but to just be aware that, you know, as it stands, if you have like a patented seed or whatever, you shouldn't be saving those seeds and reusing them. So certainly something to think about, but I thought I would just share. I thought it was a cool skill to have, share a couple of the things that I learned, but this is obviously far from an instructional video, but there's plenty of resources out there. And yeah, I would just encourage folks to dive into it if they're interested. And I'm interested to see how the ones that I saved will do. I got tomato, cucumber, a bunch of flowers, and I'm going to do on my own a pea plant that did reasonably well this year. They said certainly if you have anything that did well for you in your climate, try to save some of those seeds, because it's the genetics within inside the seeds do sort of become accustomed to or grow to the strengths of the environment in which it's in. And so if you have something that did particularly well where you are, it might be at this point sort of finely tuned to that environment. You know, the pH of the soil, the seasonality, the temperature spectrum, wetness, dryness, so on and so forth. And so I'm trying to grab the things that did the best for me this year and save some seeds. All right, folks. Well, if you walked with me, we are about to get 13 minutes in. Hopefully you had a nice stroll or speed walk or whatever you're doing. And if you didn't, no worries. I still appreciate you sticking around and watching the video thus far. All right, folks. Speaking of videos, I will see you in the next video.